Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the All Things Performance podcast. I'm joined with my co-host, Derek Devine, as always, and we have a special visitor today. Man, I am so excited about today's conversation. We have former big leaguer, Drew Robinson. Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me. I've been looking forward to this, reconnecting with my guys. So I'm doing good.
Oh, man, Drew, this is going to be exciting. There's so many questions that I have to ask you. It's good to see you. For those of you who do not know, Drew Robinson, in conjunction with ESPN, created a documentary called Alive, and it details the saga of Drew's life from a kid to a minor leaguer to a major leaguer, to a pivotal point in his life where there was a failed suicide attempt. And we're going to be talking about that today, amongst a lot of other things. And if you have not watched that documentary, I suggest that you do. It's a tearjerker. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's powerful. Viewer discretion is advised, especially if you have young ones. But we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about a lot of heavy things that, athletes deal with. So, Drew, how does that sound to you, man?
Sounds good, man. Let's get into it. I know it's a heavy topic, but as I've realized, it's a really important one. So I'm really happy to do it, and I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. Hey, before we get into it, I have a personal question. I mean, you're a Vegas boy, man. You know what I'm saying? Have you been to Allegiant Stadium? That thing looks like a starship, like one of those little mini planets on Star Wars. You know what I mean? Have you been to that thing yet?
Yeah, I've been to it. It's a giant Mercedes-Benz is what I call it. It looks like outside, it just looks like a huge Mercedes-Benz with the black and the white neon lights. So that thing is remarkable, though. It's really, really.
Yeah, man, you can mess around and get lost in that thing, man. Dang.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Man, have you been there?
I have not been there, man. It looks like Cirque du Soleil performs out there.
Oh, man. Hey, Drew, real quick, man. Obviously, mental health. One of your big things is end the stigma, right? End the stigma. Mental health is a big deal. It's a big topic right now. We're going to get into that today. I want to start from back when you were a kid. I have little kids right now playing Little League. You played. The game has changed, man. Even since you were playing. Just to get right into it, what is one of the biggest lies right now that kids are being spoon-fed, man, as it relates to their performance, their sense of identity, their purpose as a young child? What are some of the biggest lies being told right now?
I think it's a lie that most athletes tell themselves, whether it's like consciously or subconsciously. It's that there's like a perfect way to do things. There's like an end goal. There's always a more, and it's like that's really good for like fueling some desire to get better and to like give you some energy and motivation to work on your craft. But I think it's a very slippery slope, because at some point that can become detrimental. So I think the lie is that like focusing on like a goal or like a skill that you want to achieve or you want to like get to or whatever, and like that just, I think it creates this. Again, it's like a lot of times, and I say it's consciously or subconsciously because it's something I didn't realize, I wasn't aware of that I was doing, was there's always like a more, and there's like, it led to a never ending cycle of, I feel it like feeling of unfulfillment and like a little bit of a void, because when I eventually got to something that I was working towards, I didn't even take time because I was just so like conditioned to want the next thing. So when I got what I was working on, it was like, whatever, that's what was supposed to happen because that's what I was working for. But now let me focus on what I don't have. And that's this next goal. And again, it kind of creates that like that endless cycle, like that rabbit wheel or the hamster wheel, never ending. And I've been saying it a lot, like obviously in baseball terms, like when I was in Little League, I wanted to make my high school team. When I was in high school, I wanted to either go to college, or I knew I was able to go straight to pro. So I either wanted to do that or go to pro to be a professional baseball player. And then when I was in the minor leagues, all I wanted to be was the next step in the minors, and then eventually the big leagues. And when I got there, I didn't even take time to appreciate it because I was just so focused on trying to become a starter. And if I would probably would have done the same thing and wanted to be like an all-star or an MVP. And then it would have been World Series champion, and then maybe a Hall of Fame. Like it never would have ended. So I think the lie that I think it's something that we tell ourselves that, again, sometimes we're not even aware of it, is that there's always
Yeah.
something that you want. It's like happiness is everywhere but where you're at, or like fulfillment or contentment, all those things. So I think it's just kind of like a slippery slope concept of never being fully satisfied or fully fulfilled, because there's definitely times where you can do it without getting complacent. So I think that's something that kind of hits home with me with that concept.
I think that's powerful because I mean, you can literally take what you said and apply it to almost any domain in life, any profession. But
It's
baseball, what's that?
it's so universal, and it's
Yeah.
something that, like you said, you can apply it to like literally your morning routine, or like something as simple as like just a conversation with. So it's like it's so applicable to everything. And again, man, it's like I think it's the fear of, if you take time to accept where you're at or appreciate what you've done or whatever, it's a fear that you'll get complacent, when that's not the case. Like there's always a middle ground. There's always ends of the spectrum that
Yeah.
most of the time living right in the middle is where you want to be. So taking time to try to get more out of yourself and get the most out of yourself, but then also taking time to appreciate where you've gotten to, because like I said, at one point in your life, you probably wanted everything that you have right now.
Exactly.
Because when you get there, you always condition to want more, that you don't even take time to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, man. And you're right, it is universal. And I think that when you start looking at baseball, it's almost built in. It's built into the pie. You know what I'm saying? Like, rookie league, short season, double A, triple A. You know what I'm saying? Big league, and just like you said, on down the line, it's insatiable, man. It never ends. One of the things that when I looked at your documentary, when I watched your documentary, first of all, man, thank you so much for being vulnerable and for sharing that, man. All the things that you shared and the work that you're doing now. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say thank you, because what you're doing right now is you are making it okay for people to be vulnerable, especially athletes, especially male athletes who are conditioned to perform at all costs, no matter what. And so, man, I just really want to say thank you for that, because it's opening up a lot of really needed conversations. When you start looking, when I was watching your documentary, I want you to talk to us about family, because I know family's big for you. And when you start looking at some of the research with birth order, usually the oldest kid is, responsible. He or she's been around mom or dad longer. The middle kid is independent. They're usually the peacemakers. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they can, be doing their own thing. And the youngest kid, usually, if you look at some of Dr. Lehman's work on birth order and others, the youngest kid is like the charmer, is the one that makes everybody laugh, is the one that knows how to get attention. Talk to us, man. Obviously, I don't know your brother or sister, but I know you, and I want you to talk to us about the family dynamic and how that played into who you were growing up, man.
Yeah, well, I didn't know, I didn't go into the full research like that, but the way you just described it was so spot on with my family, because we have the prototypical, like we have the three siblings with the parents and stuff. So yeah, my sister, she was at times like a third parent. My brother he's always been like the guy that was like the middle ground, and he was also like kind of like the focus of the family for most of our life, because he was just so gifted from the get-go. Like he was always way bigger than everyone in his age group. So for sports, he was always head and shoulders above everyone, talent wise and physical, like appearance wise. And then me, I just like, especially because our family dynamic eventually led to a divorce, there was just always a lot of like wedging and like separation and like different I don't know, like going different directions with our family. So because that takes a toll on everybody, at times I just wanted to, like, I was just peacemaker, right? Like you said, I just wanted to be the jokester. I wanted to like make people laugh. I wanted to give them a moment of joy. I wanted us to try to forget about some of the stressors in our family dynamic. So I was definitely like the attention seeker, where I was like needing the attention for myself, but also like try to use that to like help give my family like a moment of joy or a moment of whatever whatever they needed, with like some like laughter or some goofiness or whatever the case may be. And that definitely carried over into my teens and into eventual adulthood, where I was just like the jokester of every group, and was able to kind of like use my, I guess the charm is a good word, where I was just like happy-go-lucky person. And I was like took things very light, or kept things very light. And it kind of like became a skill. And then eventually, like I said, that kind of turned into something where I almost like beat myself up for, because I felt like I was always just that. And I never like actually got into things deeper than that. But yeah, my family dynamic, I was definitely the way you described it from like the research standpoint, that was like pinpoint my family.
That's crazy, man. And Derek, I'm gonna throw a rock to you here in a second. You said something in your documentary. You said it a couple of times, and you were referring to perfectionism, right? And when you start looking at some of the research behind perfectionism, sometimes, it's one of those things where they want to keep their world small, right? Anything short of being perfect is not good enough, so they'll throw it all away. People will think less of me if I'm not perfect. I have to be perfect at all times to be respected, right? That narrative that keeps on playing, in our head as perfectionists. And I want you to talk about your experience with perfectionism, and maybe even tie that in with the family dynamic, and the slamming the bat in the dugout when you were a kid, leading through your career, and just like this insatiable desire to be perfect, and the good and the bad that came with that. And I have a question that I want your advice on as well.
Yeah, man, I think perfectionism is such a perspective thing. Like I've gotten to the point now where, and I'm not there all the time, but I definitely have times and phases throughout my life now, especially after an incident, that like I am perfect. Like I'm able to say that, in a non-arrogant way or ignorant way. Sorry, but for most of my life up until my incident, I took it as like the way you just described it. Like if I'm not perfect in everything, I'm not perfect with my production, if I'm not perfect with my practice or whatever, I don't deserve success, or I don't deserve care or whatever. Like I just like had that idea. Like usually what follows trying to be perfect is worthiness or unworthiness. And like if you're trying to be perfect, and on most aspects, it's usually going to lead to unworthiness, because the unrealistic idea of perfection is usually like literal perfection in every aspect. So it usually leads to a lot of like shame and guilt because you fall short of your expectations, because a perfect expectation is just so unrealistic. So it's just a really heavy weight to carry around because it's not realistic. So and again, it was something that I reflect back on a lot, because obviously I knew I had like some conflict, and I was really uncomfortable a lot of times internally with my emotions and moods. And that's why I was a wear my heart on my sleeve kind of guy, because I had so many emotions and so many things because that I didn't address. So they just kind of came out in other ways from being pent up. So that's why like wearing my heart on my sleeve was like my character, because when things went really well, it just like I couldn't hold it in, and I was like on top of the world. And then when things went really bad, again, I couldn't hold it in because I didn't have any way to like kind of address them. I didn't have any like thing to fall back on, because I was just leaving things a chance and just like solely relying on validation from others, being accepted, getting the attention, and being told I was doing a good job and praise basically in baseball. So, and I think that's something too that comes into play with baseball, since it is such a like everyday sport. Even when you're younger, you play so often, you practice so often. So I was constantly getting that immediate feedback of like, if I did good, I got praised. If I did bad,
yes,
very clear. Like I did bad. Everyone knew I knew I didn't do what I was wanting to do. My coaches knew it, was able to like come and tell me I didn't do it well. So like I was constantly getting that feedback. So the perfectionism thing started to bleed into other aspects of my life, where if I wasn't like the perfect student, then I would just beat myself up. If I wasn't the perfect friend, I would beat myself up. Or if I like said something wrong in the conversation, or if I thought it was wrong, even if it wasn't, like if it just was a little subjective and I didn't think I said it correctly, I'd go beat myself up because it wasn't perfect. So it just kind of like bleeds into all the different areas of my life. And the perfectionism, like I said, is kind of a perspective thing at this point, because you can really look at it both ways, where trying to be like actual productive perfect, or just like accept yourself that I am perfect the way that I am, and I'm just trying my best. And it's like,
I like that.
Sounds like common sense, but it's like way, because a lot of times something I say a lot is like emotions and feelings don't really care about logic. But like logic, I'm just trying my best, and that's all I can ask myself. And you're like, yeah, but and it's like, no, there's no but. It's like I'm just trying my best, and that's all I can ask myself. And even when I was trying to be perfect, I still made mistakes. So why not just like allow myself to learn from those mistakes and try to like push away mistakes?
Yeah.
So
No, I like that.
but like I said, I kind of like an open book now, and since I held things in for so long now, I just kind of like, I used to think about these things the same way without talking about them. So now when I talk about it, things just kind of like fall out of me.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. I really like what you said about perfectionism, in that you had this disposition where it was not, you realized that it wasn't realistic. It's like, I'm trying to do this, but it wasn't realistic. And Derek, from a performance standpoint, when you start looking at perfectionism, because Drew, I love what you said about, hey, I am perfect. I am who I am, and I'm going to accept who I am. Right. I love that. But then let's be honest, like, we're all athletes, right? You're a professional athlete that gets paid handsomely to do what you do. Right. And so it's like, we have to perform in order to be accepted. And for my question for you, Derek, is, at what point, with perfectionism, is it like, man, okay, I'm good. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm good. Or were you kind of like Drew, where it was like, nah, I gotta keep reaching. I gotta keep plugging. I gotta keep building. Talk about, and with baseball, it's different, right? Because baseball, the grind is every single day. You're always being evaluated. You're always being scouted. There are transactions happening every day. A new guy comes up. That means somebody going down. You know how it is. In football, it's a little bit different in that it's just like, I'm going to put my heart on the field, hoping that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm one of those 53 guys. Talk to us about your perspective on perfectionism.
Well, like again, like Drew sharing, which is nice, is like the viewpoint I wish I would have had when I was playing, right? Is like, because I think that places you in a position to actually provide your best effort, being that calm, I just, based off what he's saying, that would have put me at a much calmer state and more relaxed state,
freed you up
playing, and so for me, it was like, I was a free agent. And so there was never an off season, because my phone could ring at any moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, it would be nice to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, because there is an element where, like, you know what, I can chill for a couple months after the season. They paid me too much money to get rid of me. I'm not going anywhere, so on and so forth. But for me, it was a constant hustle day. I mean, every single minute had to be used wisely, because if I'm getting cut, I can't look back and say, well, it was because I was lazy, or it was because I didn't do this, or it was because I didn't do that. And so it's like, and for me, it was like, just looking back now, it was like, at one point in time, I was one of the best 90 or maybe max 100 quarterbacks in the world. And it's like, but you don't look at that. Like,
it's not good enough. It's still not good enough. It's not good enough.
There's only maybe 100 other guys as good as me right now.
Yeah.
On the planet.
Yeah.
That's never good enough. And so it was like, I have to make this team, or I can't be seen by anyone. I don't want to talk to anybody. You have a bad day of practice. It's almost, it would ruin your whole day until the next one, let alone a bad game.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you're on TV. It's like, I can't, like, how I play is whether I want to see people.
Yeah.
Or what, and so, I wish football was just a thing I did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was the thing I did.
Yeah. And I know that
was it. There was nothing else.
Yeah. And I know, Drew, that you can relate to that. I love this conversation on perfectionism, because one of the things, the questions that I always ask people is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And there are multiple sides to it, and it can be good if you put it in perspective. And Drew, I want you to talk about this before we go to the next question here about perfectionism, is that one of the things that perfectionists do not do is that they have and you've alluded to this already without even knowing, is that they do not take the time to celebrate. Oh, I had a great week. I had a great month. I had a great game. Oh man, you know what? Hey man, I did pretty good. It's next Bill Belichick on to Cincinnati. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no reflection.
There's no reflection. It's just like, I'm going. It's like, it's not good enough. Next one. They don't celebrate. I want you to talk to us in hindsight, Drew, about the importance of really relishing the present achievements and taking that in.
Yeah, I mean, the way he said it, the next, like, yeah, it's so true. Like, it's just, my brain would just go to the next thing. And I think it's kind of like what Derek was alluding to, was with like, it's crazy how your brain adjusts to something that you do daily. So like it felt very regular to us that we were in that environment, but like from the outside, or again from like the younger version of ourselves, all we wanted to be was in the position we were at. So being the top 100 quarterbacks, or me, at times I was playing in a Major League Baseball, on a Major League field in the Major League batter's box, and I was totally convinced I was bad at baseball because comparatively I wasn't Mike Trout yet.
See, that's crazy, man.
And it's like,
just like, yeah,
I was in the top however many number of players in the world at that time, but because I was around it so often, it was what I was used to, because I did it on a daily basis. It felt very regular to me to be in that environment. But like from the outside, or from a younger version of myself, like and now afterwards, I realized that wasn't a very regular, like I was blessed to be able to be in that position. And it's something that a lot of people would give to be in that position, or something that I tried my entire life to be in that position. But because there was a little bit of a different, there was, I guess, levels where there's like me, and then like there was the all-stars, and I wanted to be at the all-star level, and I wasn't the Mike Trouts yet, or whatever, whoever else I was comparing myself to. I was literally in the batter's box or sitting in center field waiting for me, completely convinced that I wasn't that good at baseball because I wasn't where I wanted to be. So that obsessive desire to be pretty much anything other than I was or where I was at, because there was someone else doing it better than I thought, or someone that was more put together, or just whatever the case, whatever the comparison might be. But yeah, back to the idea of perfection. It's just like, it just overtakes you, and it gets you so far away from logic and so far from reality that you don't even get to take time to appreciate where you've gotten to, because you're just so focused on getting somewhere that you think is going to make better. And then again, when you get there, you realize you get that, maybe you might get a little hit of pride or of satisfaction, but then it's like a split second goes by and you're like, all right, I need to get to the next level of what I think it's going to be better. So not being able to take time to praise yourself is a really detrimental habit, because and I can obviously speak from experience, like there just needs to be a balance. And I think balance is an universal that you can kind of apply to any part of life, but like there's always going to be ends of the spectrum. And for me, I try to just find that sweet spot in between these things of like, again, not getting complacent and being like so like proud of myself to where I don't need to work anymore, but also not being on the other end where it's I need to go and I need more. It's like, let me find that middle ground where it's like, I want to get the most out of myself and try to get better in certain aspects, but I also need to make sure I take time to just be proud of myself, because again, at one point, everything I ever wanted, like I wanted everything I have right now. Like that's all I was working for was to get to the big leagues. Like at one point, I wasn't about being a Major League All-Star or Major League World Series champion. It was like, I just want to get to the big leagues. And then that's the first step, whatever. Then I can go from there. But like, I just never took time to appreciate I'm in the big leagues at this time. It's like, no, I'm not Mike Trout. I must not be good enough. The Rangers keep sending me down, even though I'm doing okay. I must not be good enough. But no, like, let me just zoom out from where I'm at right now. Let me like stop being so like narrow-minded and just zoom out and be like, dude, I'm on a big league field right now. My 9-year-old self would be psyched. It's just, even if I was just a fan of the stadium, my 9-year-old self would be psyched. But the fact that I'm actually playing on the field, like, just be proud of myself for a little bit. And again, not let that lead to complacency, but just taking moments here and there. And I think it comes back to the idea of balance. And it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And it's kind of like the saying, what you say, what you feel, and what you do that's like true alignment or whatever. And I think that's like very similar to that idea of balance. And I think it's, like I said, not taking any time to give yourself some praise only leads to a very negative or a very pessimistic view of things.
Man, I Drew, that was powerful, man. That'll preach right there. I'm going to go off script real quick. Okay. So for those people who are watching this, in full disclosure, Drew Robinson was drafted 2010, right? 2010 Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
And I was the strength coach there. I don't know if I think I told you that I was a strength coach there. And I mean, that class that we had some studs, dude. You know what I mean? I mean, there was Cafe Martinez, there was Odubel Herrera, Luke Jackson, Jordan Akins, Braxton Lane, all these guys, you know what I'm saying? And I remember one thing, and I've never told you this, Drew. I've never told you this, but I'm going to tell it to you right now. For me, one of the things that I always appreciate, or one of the things that I do is I like watching to see what people are going to do at their breaking point. I like seeing what people do when things get really competitive. And I remember you remember those 115-degree speed training days, Drew? And one of the things that I always saw with you, man, was that there was always, it seemed like there were always the prospect guys. And for you, man, I always saw like this drive, like, I'm just as good as these dudes. I'm going to be one of these dudes, but you never really said it. But I saw it. I was just like, this dude's a worker. And when people would ask me, that's what I would say. I'm like, dude, this dude's a worker. You know what I'm saying? And what did that drive you in terms of, because you said when you're in the batter's box, you're thinking about Mike Trout, you're thinking about all these other cats. I remember as a strength coach, I saw that. I saw the prospects, and then I saw everybody else, and I saw Drew Robinson. It was the non-spoken non-verbals, man. Did I see that right, bro, or no?
I would like to think so. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I think it kind of started back when, like, because like I said, my brother was always the guy in our family, like from an athletic standpoint. And I was a late bloomer when I got to, my brother was like 6 foot in 6th grade, like dunking in 8th grade, throwing 94 as a freshman or sophomore in high school. And then I get to high school and I'm like 5'1", 95 pounds my first day. And everyone's like, oh, this is the Robinson boy that we heard about. Like,
yeah.
So it was like always supposed to be him. And it was him. Like he went and played professional baseball as well, but I was a late bloomer. So I always just felt like I was kind of living my brother's shadow. So I always felt like I had something to prove. I always had like a little bit of chip on my shoulder, like, no, I'm good. And it wasn't like a envious way. I just, like, I wanted to prove that I could keep up with my brother, which kind of like created a characteristic or just a personality where I wanted to just prove myself. So, and it's kind of funny to think too, because like realistically, I got drafted in the 4th round. So I was a prospect pretty much from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
But I never felt that way. I always felt like, again, comparatively, like there's a 3rd rounder, a 2nd rounder, a supplemental rounder, and a 1st rounder that was ahead of me. So I wasn't the top. Again, like when I was in the big leagues, there was the Mike Trouts. So like I always just had that kind of idea that there was like a next level that I needed to get to. And I did think I use it to my advantage at times. Like I'll never regret how hard I worked on the physical. Like I genuinely worked really hard physically and like practice and things like that. So I'll never regret that at all. And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting because I also took it as like a respect factor. Like the Rangers believed in me. They drafted me in the 4th round. They gave me some money. There's like people like you, there's coaches out there in the heat with me. Like I owed it to them to give my best. Like they're not out there for just for free time. Like they're also trying to get something out of us. They're also putting the time for us. So I took it as like a sign of respect that if I wasn't working hard, I was going to disrespect the people that believed in me. So there was just a lot of aspects that went into like my actual work ethic. And I always had that chip on my shoulder, and I definitely tried not to talk about it. But if you were in the locker room with us more, maybe you would have heard me talk about it in a more like, where I would like kind of say, like maybe mumble under my breath to someone I was close with, like, man, I could have been a 1st rounder, or man, but like I try to use it to my advantage to try to get the most out of myself for sure.
Yeah, no, but yeah. I mean, your work ethic was unquestionable, man, and you always worked, man, and that's undeniable, man. You know, when you first, once again, we're here with Drew Robinson, former big leaguer, now turned mental health advocate for the San Francisco Giants. Just talking about his story. We're talking about mental health, performance, and all things performance. And so, Drew, when you start looking at, let's talk about performance a little bit, right? And when you start looking at the professional, let's talk about the professional athlete. You can even put in collegiate athlete, and nowadays high school athlete. Sometimes you can't even tell the difference. What is the danger, right, of many? I'll say it like this: a lot of athletes use their sport as an escape, right? It's an escape. It's like, oh crap, it's going down at home. I ain't trying to hear it. I'm not trying to be part of the drama. Let me just get to the field. Let me just get to the clubhouse. Let me just get around my boys, and I'll be good. And what happens is they get there, right? Throw on the uni, throw on the workout clothes, go to the game, compete. And then when they get home, they're dealing with the same thing. Right. And they're suppressing, they're drinking it away, smoking it away, yelling it away, whatever the case may be. And then we got to do it again tomorrow. And then the next day. I want you to talk to us about the beauty of using your sport as an escape, but the dangers of not confronting things that are causing pain.
Yeah, I think that's a loaded question. I think it's so important because it's so true. Like, there's nothing wrong with using sports as an escape or using it as a safe place, because sports is a beautiful environment and it's something that gives a lot of people the opportunity to change their lives. But there's definitely a line that could be crossed where if you're not, like you said, if you're just avoiding things and using it as a way to sweep things on the rug, it's going to come out regardless. So, and that's why I say earlier on, when I was wearing my heart, my sleeve kind of person, like when I was outside of baseball, especially more so like in my just everyday environment, like at home, like you can ask Diana, like I'm a very low key person, but when I got in stressful environments or when I got in, when baseball wasn't going well or whatever, like things it just came out because things were pent up. I swept things on the rug and I didn't address anything. And then in an even more extreme manner of what happened that eventually led to my suicide attempt. It's just one of those things, like you can't avoid things forever, no matter how you go about it, like it's just going to come out. And when I say that, like it's going to come out in whatever way. And sometimes it's a way that you don't want, something that you're not proud of, or something that might actually create something that you have, like a consequence that you have to live with for the rest of your life. So, again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to use sports as an escape at times. But at the same time, like I said, anything can become detrimental if you let it. So, using that drive to be really good at your craft, or using the discomfort from maybe the home environment to go and be really good at whatever sport you're playing. There's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, you're going to have to take time to address what you're feeling with or what you're dealing with, because again, like I said, it's going to come out whether you like it or not. And it's to come out in a way that for some people might create a really detrimental habit like alcoholism or drugs or, for me, it was like short temper. Like I was just an angry person when I was in like a safer place or not around people. I was just angry a lot. And for other people, it could be more extreme. So like I said, it's going to come out whether you like it or not. So it's just, for me, that's what I'm trying to do, is try to be like a walking reminder people, like go do it in a healthy way. Like go see a therapist. Like I mean, I'm a man. I grew up in an environment that's like the only thing I was talked about was just how cool we could be. Like trying to just be the coolest of the cool, and like why not make therapy cool? Like I benched 300 pounds the other day, but also I went and saw a therapist. To make that a cool topic, like if you told someone I benched 300 pounds or I went and ran 5 miles, everyone that you told that to be like, wow, dude, that's awesome, that's so cool. But then if you say, oh, also I went and saw a therapist an hour before, they would like have that little hesitation, like everything okay? Like, no, everything's fine. I want to be the best version of myself. Just like I'm trying to get the best of myself physically with that 5-mile run. I'm also trying to get the best of myself mentally and emotionally to be the best version of myself, which is only going to help my environment, help the people around me, help me be a more stable person. So
no, that's good, man.
It's just good. Like, a lot of goes into it. So, but like I said, I think everything can become detrimental if you let it. And it comes back to the idea of balance. Like it's just, you need to balance things. You need to address things. You need to heal your trauma, because unfortunately it can get to a point where it gets to a really overwhelming feeling and you might not be able to have the energy or be able to control it.
I love that, man. I love that. One of the things that I got a question for you, Derek. One of the things that you said is that it's eventually going to come out. You said that multiple times. It's eventually going to come out. It's eventually going to come out. It's eventually going to come out. I want you to talk to us real quick, Derek, just about the freedom that people receive, man, when they confront stuff. And a lot of times, Drew, you may, I think you would resonate with this. I think a lot of times people look at the word confrontation as a negative thing. Oh, confrontate, you got to confront the problem. You got to confront the issue. Like, no, it's not really, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. No. I want you to talk to us about the power and the freedom that you receive when you confront your trauma, when you confront things that are detrimental, things that are, degrading your performance and your overall well-being.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, man. Cause like, I've shared on here before, just the opportunity, when I was pastoring my wife and I, for a number of years at a church, we had recovery homes. We worked with a lot of guys with an addiction. And you would see such freedom with them because we would eventually get them. It's like, hey, eventually you're going to have to talk about what's going on. What got you to this place? Where are you at mentally? Where are you at emotionally? What went on in your life? How did this start? How did this begin? Where was this at? And I'll never forget how much that stirred stuff up within myself, because we always see people as like, oh yeah, see, they're broken, or, oh, they hate themselves because they're a heroin addict, or they're a meth addict, or they're an alcoholic, or whatever. And I started to realize is, there are so many other, quote unquote substances, which for me, it was perfectionism. What I had accomplished was my drug. Like I have to accomplish this in order to be seen as successful. And so seeing that allowed me, and helping those, those men and women through that, was allowing me to see, oh man, you know what? I got stuff that I need to work out on myself. And for me, a lot of my freedom came through accountability, through men in my life that I could open up to, that I gave the opportunity to speak truth into me, who's at times in my weaknesses, their words meant more to me. Their words I chose, I'm going to listen to that more than I'm going to listen to myself. And that's where we really got to see I've gotten to see so much freedom within my life, and then other men's and women's lives, is when they find accountability, when they find somebody they can talk to, like truly talk to about everything. That's when you see something really open up. I know that was kind of shared in the documentary that I watched yesterday. I was like, did you have people you could talk to?
Yes.
And it was like, yeah, I did, but and it was when those people that have, that have been in my life, or that I've had the opportunity to be that for them and theirs, when that clicks, I don't know if there's much, something much more special.
Yeah. I hear, no, I appreciate you sharing that there. I hear the common thread there with what you said and Drew shared. It's like, yeah, I bench 300 some pounds, you know what I'm saying? But I also go and I do this for myself.
Yeah. I
also value the words of this therapist, this person that's trying to help me, more so than the negativity that I'm telling myself. Drew, I have a question for you. As we start to get into some weighty issues here. Once again, if those that are watching have not seen the documentary Alive, done in conjunction with ESPN with Drew Robinson, I highly recommend that you watch it. It's very powerful. Drew, one of the things that you did a beautiful job of elaborating what went into the failed suicide attempt and the weight of the world on your shoulders. What I want to do is I want to ask you this question. Was there a point where you said to yourself, man, obviously it's years of buildup, right? But was there a singular moment where you were like, you know what? Nobody cares. You know what? They're not listening. It doesn't really matter. Was there like a point where it started, or was it a culmination to where I'm thinking about this, I'm planning this, and now I'm going to try to end my life? What was the turning point, the pivot, the hard pivot for you?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. Like, it was a culmination of a lot of lifestyle habits and thinking pattern, like thought patterns that I had, that just were natural, that just naturally came out of a couple that, like I said, that were in place my whole life. But because of like three serious life stressors that happened all within a couple months, was like the turning point. So like those things that happened to me, I had like culmination of thought patterns that I would apply to those three occurrences. And then the eventual pivotal point was, it wasn't so much about like no one cares or I'm alone. While those were definitely thoughts and things I was feeling, it was more so the fear of being misunderstood was like the real battle that I had. Like, how was I going to tell someone, especially like someone I was close with, if I didn't want to tell my therapist, which I didn't tell, but how was I going to tell someone that knows me, that knows the life that I've achieved and lived, how I live comfortably financially. I have a supportive family and supportive group of friends. Like, I had I had a fiance that cared about me deeply. Who was going to understand that I wanted life? Like, no one's going to understand that. So because of the stigma, right? Like, the only people that have mental disorders and deal with depression and all, is like people who don't have the means, who don't have people who care about them, and all the things that go into a stigma. But so for me, it was just the fear, just like huge weight of fear that I was going to be misunderstood if I told someone, I don't know why, man, I don't know why I feel this way, but I'm thinking, like, for some reason I feel like I'd be better off if I wasn't here. Like, that takes so much strength in the first place. So like,
Yeah.
that's would have been a sign of weakness. Like, my life is so easy and I still feel this way. So that must mean that I'm mentally weak. But like, looking back, if I would have, and that's why I'm like so proud of like all the athletes these days that are talking about it openly before they get to a point that I got to, because
Yeah.
I realize now how much strength that would take in the moment, and how much accountability and how much awareness it takes to say, dude, I have no idea why I'm feeling this way, but like, for some reason I thought about the other day how I don't want to be here anymore. Like, that would have taken so much strength. And again, it kind of goes back to your last question to Derek, is about freeing, like the feeling of freedom. It's like, the first step of freedom is accountability. And then also the following thing is like, you realize there are a lot more people in the world can relate to you. So like, it sucks that a lot of people feel these things, but like, I think it's a pretty common thing to just question life every once in a while. Like, the most put together person would probably admit, if they were in a more comfortable space, to admit that they question their life at some point along their journey. So like, that's the other thing too, is like, it's just, it like, you realize once you start talking about these things out loud, you start to realize, if you do it in like a growth way, you start to realize that a lot more people around you are either feeling similar things, just from different situation or different stimuli, but like, we're all feeling the same things, just from completely different experiences. So I know that's a really long answer, but like,
no, that's good, man.
Culmination of a lot of bad self-talk habits, a lot of like, again, habits of trying to be perfect to create external validation and like to be approved and all these things. And then when those things weren't happening, and then, like I said, the three things, like when I had my first serious injury, got released, and I was running out of options, or running out of what I thought were going to be opportunities to play baseball, signing out of high school, so not having like a degree or having job experience, not knowing what I was going to do next. And then eventually questioning things with Diana, eventually calling off a wedding, and then going to spring training and trying to use baseball as an escape, like we've talked about already in this interview. But I was still thinking about it all the time. And then that gets taken away from me because of the pandemic, and then I have to go home and quarantine all by myself. Those three things all added on top of each other in a span of like 8 months, was just a recipe for disaster. And like I said, I had every part of me believed that no one would understand that I said that. So I was like, you know what? No one's going to understand this. I'm hopeless. I feel terrified of the world. I feel terrified. I don't think there's anything left for me. And if I told someone, they're just going to judge me. So let me just get out of here and get rid of this pain, so I don't have to feel this anymore. So that was a lot. And again, I know that's a really heavy reflection and a lot of things to dive into, but that's kind of what was going on for the buildup of my attempt.
No, I really appreciate that. That cuts deep, man. I have a question for you in regards to that. I want to talk about support systems, right? Because I think it's something that we throw around loosely. You know, people say, oh, family, oh, friends, loved ones. But during that time, this obviously dark period in your life, was your support system smaller than you thought, or was it bigger than you actually realized?
Both.
Yeah.
I think because I was just naturally a judgmental person. So I just overanalyzing things. I thought I knew things without actually knowing them. So like, I had a lot of assumptions in my life with people and personalities and things. And so I just kind of assumed, like, my family dynamic, we were a broken family. We have a lot of trauma, not like emotional trauma within each other, like a lot of unresolved conflicts. So I didn't feel comfortable talking to them, because I felt like, again, they wouldn't be able to talk me through it. Also because of, like, I had just a ingrained stigma, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but like, they're
Yeah.
not professionals, so they're not going to be able to help me, which isn't true. Like I said, people are feeling a lot of the same things. So like a lot of
Yeah.
people relate to me more than I was able to realize at that time. But also like, because I was lucky enough to survive, I got to witness how big my support system is. And I think
Mm.
something that I've really learned, and something, this is in hindsight, and something I'm really kind of like try to remind myself of, is like just managing expectations within your relationship. So like, I'm not going to go to the biggest macho man in my support system and ask him to give me a hug, or ask him to give me whatever, I'm like something else. So like, knowing what someone can offer you is also a part of knowing what your support system is. So like,
Yeah.
if someone's a little bit more old school in my support system, that doesn't mean every single person is. So I can maybe go to Diana to get some like emotional comfort, or go to my mom that's more nurturing, more that kind of relationship. And then if I need to go to like someone like help me get some grit, or like get me some like to teach me the grind to get through some adversity, go to my dad. Like he's a
Yeah.
hard worker. Like managing expectations within your relationship is a huge deal, and knowing what someone can help you with, and knowing what you need to ask from them is a really big deal too. Because I was just like so oblivious to all these things. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this person not able to give it me this, that must mean they can't give me anything. It's like, no, you can get something out of everyone.
Yeah.
And not in a way like taking, but just like in a way of like a growth, or like a learning experience from somebody, from their life experience, or something that they've been through, or something that they just know about. So it's like, it goes so many ways. But I think, and I say that a lot because I've learned, like I've realized it. Like I said, one example I use, especially with like Diana, is like her uncle. They're from Bulgaria. They're
Mm-hmm.
from a foreign country. He had to come to the States. He didn't know any of her. He didn't know the language, but he's created this amazing life for himself. So if I needed to like learn about finances or like business, like I go
Mm-hmm.
to him. I'll go to him and ask him some questions, but I'm not going to go to him and talk to him about why I'm feeling depressed because of something that for him might not feel as serious. So managing expectations within your relationships, I think, is a really big part, and a really big first step to knowing what a support system is all about.
I do that, man. You could teach a seminar on that, bro. Like that's so it's so good, because yeah, man, like everybody can't give you everything. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'm
And
so glad that you
it
go
also
ahead.
puts them in an uncomfortable place, because it's not
Yes.
ask them or those things, because and then they might make them feel like they're lacking in their life, or in their like support that they're trying to give back to you. So it's like just knowing the person and knowing what you need in that moment, which
Yes.
this overall awareness, it's just gonna help everybody. And I think that's why doing the self work, and like I said, with like therapy, it helps you kind of start that process of learning yourself, and being just more aware of what's going on, and then you
Mhm.
can like move in the right direction, and inch your way closer to where you want to be.
Man, I'm so glad you said that. And for those of you who are listening, I really hope that you listen to what Drew just said about managing expectations, about the support system, because guess what? Everybody in your support system, it can't talk to you about being gentle and being kind and meditation, and you know what I'm saying, and reflection or journaling. You know what I mean? They can't all tell you about how to, you know what I'm saying, like increase power in the weight room. Like having that is so huge, man. And what it does, correct me if I'm wrong, but what it does, it makes you value everybody.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, my dad always used to say, man, you can get something from anybody.
Yeah.
Like, and like Drew hit on, which was good, like not to use them, but it's like, I think that's helpful as a human, to be able to recognize and see the good in people,
Mm-hmm.
and see how they can help you. What are their, being able to identify strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's huge. I mean, another thing that I don't mean to kind of bounce back to the last question, but I thought something that he brought up was really good is sometimes is he shared, like he got into the thought process, like nobody's going to want to hear this. I'm all by myself in this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has similarities. And that, I think, is like the biggest lie that a lot of people fall into, just even in life, not just necessarily into a suicide or anything like that, but just thinking you're all by yourself in this.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to understand where I'm at. And I just think both of those questions we went into is huge, because you'd be floored how many people are thinking the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
It's struggling with what you're struggling with.
Yeah. We're just like you said, Drew, like we all, you know, it's the questions of mankind, right? That everybody asks themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Why am I here? What
Yes.
can I do? Where am I going? Where am I from? Do I even matter? What
Mm-hmm.
happens after this life? Like everyone asks themselves that question.
What is my calling?
What is my calling? What's
Yeah.
my purpose? Right?
Yeah.
Everybody asks themselves that at some point in their journey. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Drew, is this: in watching your documentary Alive, one of the things that I really appreciated about you is that you never blamed anybody for anything, dude. You never, in that entire deal, as riveting as it was, as tear-jerking as it was, you never blamed anybody about your plight. It could have been, man, these cats sending me down. Oh man, this person doesn't care. This sucks. Why am I not, like, why are they? You never blamed anybody, man. And it takes a different type of strength to do that. And I want to just kind of peel back the layers on that. Where does that come from? Why didn't you blame anybody? And even more, and even to take it another level, when there was this failed suicide attempt, you actually were the one that started comforting other people.
Actually went out of his way to take ownership.
You know what I'm saying?
You know?
I mean,
Yeah.
Talk to us about that, man.
Yeah, it's man, I get a little worked up with that concept because that was my main focus. Even though I was aware that I was getting ready to do something that was just going to devastate people and make for a really challenging scenario for people. But I think it comes, not to put a negative spin on this because I don't think it's negative, but like I always felt like I was kind of an inconvenience, like going back to my childhood, because like we weren't the wealthiest family. We struggled financially, had the divorce in our family. So I always felt like I was just another really extreme responsibility for my family to take care of me, like just in the most general sense. So I was always kind of wary of just being an inconvenience for others. So I was really conscious before my incident, was trying to find a way to make this extreme scenario as easy as it possibly could, knowing that was never going to be justified. But I didn't want to make it harder than it needed to be. But I think the thing I'm probably most grateful for, and it's something that could have happened without attempting suicide. So I'm not glorifying what I did at all, because I'm comfortable saying it was the worst decision of my life. But having the perspective shift of just kind of knowing that I have nothing to lose allowed me to kind of open up and just realize that this isn't anyone, like it's no one's fault. It's nothing, like there's no one to blame. Not even myself. Like I didn't have the tools to help myself through a really challenging time. So there's no one to blame. And it, again, like that perspective should help me realize that, like, yeah, although baseball was a very stressful environment and I dealt with like performance anxiety and not feeling good enough and all those things, at the same time, if someone would give me the keys to go back and start over and do things the exact same way right now, I would sign up and go do it all over again. Like I wouldn't, like, it was, like I said, it was very challenging at times. And I didn't know how to handle at times, but like baseball and all those, and the life stressors and all those things taught me what I know now. And it's like, it allowed me to finally realize that, like, although these really challenging times are really uncomfortable, and in the moment, it won't ever make them actually comfortable. But like, I have the understanding now that I can learn something from every situation. And that doesn't mean I need to blame someone for anything. It doesn't mean that anything is anyone's fault. It's just like, we're all just experiencing this life together. And it's like, when things get really challenging, like inevitably everything will, like someone will have to go through a really hard time. Like at some point you'll probably learn something that you realize you needed to learn from it. And again, like for me, I feel like I could have learned these lessons without attempting suicide. And that's the hardest part for me, is like the regret that's attached to that. Mm-hmm. But again, this was definitely no one's fault, because again, I just was able to realize, like I've mentioned so many times now, like I had a very strong support system. So it was just a miscommunication factor. So it wasn't anyone's fault. And I don't know, man, like I said, it's a really tricky subject to to talk about, because like I said, it's not the right answer. It's not the right thing to do. And I'm just trying to make the best of it. Like, is a lesson that you can kind of attach to anything, like no matter on the smallest scale, just try to make the best of the situation you're in.
Yeah.
And that's what I do right now.
That's good, man.
Yeah, it
That's
really
good.
is. That's a different type of strength, dude. I just have to say that, man. That's because not a lot of people think like that. I know I get caught up in, man, what is this cat doing? What are they doing? What are they doing over there? You know what I mean? So it's like, man, just to own that like that, man, that's a different type of strength, bro. So God bless you for that, man.
I appreciate it. And it's not like to say that I got it all figured out now. Like, I definitely fall back into some of those habits, and I still do this at times, and still go through. I even go through depressive episodes, even after my incident, having that kind of like awakening, I guess you can say, and genuinely feeling those things. At times, I still take things for granted, and I still fall into like suicidal thoughts and things like that. So, like I said, it's just, unfortunately, that's just the way things are. But having that perspective, at least in the back of your mind, at times, that nothing lasts forever, good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of comforting to have that realization, because in that sense, it's like when things are going good, just appreciate it, because they're not going to last forever. And then when things are going bad, don't necessarily appreciate it, but just know that it's not going to last forever, and it helps you kind of have that little hope in the back of your mind that better days are ahead.
Yeah, that's good. This leads me into my next question. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, because this has been it's been very healing, man, therapeutic, man, just eye-opening all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? When you start looking at teammates, right? We all know who our teammates are. We all know, some teammates are, very extroverted. Some of them are introverted. Some of them can be very spiritual. Some of them don't say a word to anybody. You know what I mean? We've been around all types. You know what I mean? Like, they're around all types. But we all kind of know, right? Like, we all, especially, man, when you're around people more than you are your family, we all kind of know when somebody's not, when it's not right, when it's not going well with them. And my question to you, Drew, is, when you see that, when you sense that, like, man, this cat, man, I don't know, man, this dude's been acting different, or I wonder if he's okay, right? What is your advice on this side, right, of everything? What is your advice to others when they see teammates that are probably not acting like themselves?
Yeah, I think comes back. This is like the idea of just don't hold things back, and you don't need to do it in a judgmental way. Just make it as comforting as possible, because you don't, kind of similar to what we talked about with like working hard for baseball or for the sports that we play. Like, you don't want to have any questions when things are all said and done. So if the most uncomfortable, or like if the worst thing that comes from asking someone if they're doing okay is just like a quick little hit of judgment from them, like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. It's like, okay, how hard is that to live with that time? So it's just worth it, man. Like I said, to just straight up ask, especially if it's someone that you're closer with, that makes it even easier, obviously. But if it's not, just like have a relatability or a comforting tone or experience, be like, hey, this, I might be way off here, but it's just something that's been on my mind. It's something I feel like I've noticed, and I'm doing this because I care about you as a person, as a human, even if I don't know you very well. But is everything okay? And like, it comes back to the idea of like the physical versus emotional side. Like, as an athlete, we're so easily able to say, man, my arm is so sore today, or man, I'm so sore from that lift yesterday. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go today. But if someone's like just got broken up with in the morning, or if their dog died or something, that plays a huge toll on your being, like on your emotional well-being. So to act like it's not okay to say that that's affecting you, it just sounds like common sense, right? But it's like, that's just the way that we've been accustomed. So like, going up and saying, is everything okay? That person might, like I said, one of those things might have happened to them, or something else, and they might be like, man, I'm not doing so great right now, but I'll get through it. And then you just have like this moment of connection, and you'll probably realize that you are getting more out of it, not more, but you're getting something out of it as well. And
Yes.
that's another human being. It's just like, for me, at least, I found like connection's my medicine. Like I say that kind of like something I probably would have laughed at myself if someone had told me that before, because I never would have talked about anything deeper than movie quotes and shoes and girls and stuff back in the day. But now I'm like, and it's still uncomfortable, right? Like, it's not like you say that the confrontation has a negative tone to it, but like, even if you're doing it in a positive way, it's still a pretty uncomfortable thing, because you're getting ready to like be vulnerable to another human being. And that's always like a little scary. But like I said, it's worth it, because at the end of the day, worst case scenario, if something did happen, that's something that you would probably question with yourself later on. So like, just go live with it. And that comes back to maybe even like a little bit of confidence too. Like, just be like, dude, I'm putting myself out there. And I knew this just because I care about you as a person, as a human. I want everyone to be doing their best, and I understand if you're not. So just, is everything okay? And like I said, who knows? That might be like a little saving grace for that person. And again, it'll probably do just as much for you as it does for them. So that connection piece of it is just like so powerful.
No,
I appreciate you sharing that, man, because, you know, when we do our training, one of the things that they tell us, when you see somebody, you know, out of sorts, if you will, there's beauty and simplicity, right? And what you just said right there is one of the most powerful things that you can say. And I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
And it's not anything deep. It's very simple. Is everything okay? That's actually what one of the things that they train us is like, hey, ask them, is everything okay? And you know how it is. You know how it is. We see somebody acting a certain type of way. You know, the first thing that we do as teammates is we don't even go to the person, right? We go to the other teammate, like, man, what's up with old boy, right? You know, what's up with this cat right here, man? This dude acting different right now. He's acting strange. You know, why is he acting funny right now? You know what I'm saying? Our initial response for many people, I know I've done it, is we go to other people and we start talking. Like, what's up with this dude? This dude came in looking some type of way today. Mm-hmm. Instead of going to the person themselves, like you just said, Drew, and say, hey, man, I might be totally off here, man, but are you okay, man? Is everything okay? That right there, especially as you alluded to, when it's done in good faith and in a good spirit, man, that might be the release that they need. You know what I mean? To be seen, to be ready to be understood. And so, and you said something, Drew, that was powerful. You said you never know, that might be a turning point for them. And I know that always, we're not in control of what happens with people's lives, but you shared a story on another podcast about the Hawaii quarterback. You know, I don't know if you want to share that, but it's so important, man. It's so important to ask people if they're okay. It's so important to check in on people, even if you don't talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Because you just never know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you want to.
I mean, there was a quarterback came out of Hawaii, and I was competing against him when I was playing for the Redskins. His name was Colt Brennan. Really, a really good quarterback. They were breaking all types of records at Hawaii and everything, and so he was pretty highly touted coming out. And eventually, I think it was this past year, he had died from fentanyl overdose. And I thought to myself, I cared more about competing against him to the point where I kept separation than I did about developing relationship with just him as a man. And I never even really thought that was that big of a deal, because that's just how men competing for a single spot on a roster act around each other. And then I look back and start realizing, you know, I didn't do anything close to what I should have done for that individual as just a human, as far as just being who I should have been to him. Whether he took it or not, it doesn't really even matter. You know, I think that's some thought that I know I've fallen into is, you know what, man, he's not gonna want me to ask him about his feelings.
Yeah.
When I know there are a lot higher percentage than they would lead on of men that want to be asked about their feelings.
Yeah.
They want somebody to care about them. They want somebody to open up to. And there is, like, I thought, Drew, like you hit on a really good point of finding people and what's best for, the topics and subjects that I go to certain people for. There's also something really special within being able to be vulnerable with another man, to be able to see, like, when I'm able to do that with my mentors and my accountability, it's like there's such breakthrough within some of that. And I wish I would have done a better job of that in the locker room, because what you're hitting on, that's what they want, man. Guys, a majority, you're going to get the macho dude. I'm good, man. Don't worry about what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I do think that's the smaller percentage nowadays, because there are guys, man, that want to feel supported and feel like they got a brotherhood going on, you know? And so I wish I would have done a better job with that.
Also, the idea of like what you said too, like they're not going to want to talk about their feelings. Like, you might be right. They might not want to talk about it right then, but you just opening that door might plant the seed that when, even though they're probably aware that they need to talk about something, or again, you might be wrong, you might be off, but just like you're creating a door for communication. So whether you're right or wrong on your reading, like they might be fine, or they might not be fine, and they might not want to talk right then, but you just planted that seed that when, if it does like continue to get worse and they continue to get a little overwhelmed, they know like, all right, maybe he didn't ask me today, but he brought it up like 2 weeks ago, and maybe I can go talk to him again because he's willing to talk about these things. So it just creates a better environment of like communication, which everyone can agree. Like Josiah said, everyone wants to be seen. Everyone also wants to be heard. Like that's why so many people vent about the littlest minuscule thing. But you just want, like, people just enjoy being heard. So like on the smallest scale of like venting about something that happened during your morning or whatever, when you get to work and you vent to your coworker about it, it's like, that's just an idea of being heard, and it feels really good. And then like also when you, like Josiah said, when his example of like you see someone doing bad, you go talk about with your boys and like, what's up with that guy? It's like, it feels good to like be heard to those other guys. And it's also an ego thing that like you are like witness, like you're noticing that person not all there, and you're kind of gossiping with your boys, and like it feels good for your ego to say like, I'm not there and I'm doing okay. To be like better than them at this point. And it's like, that's not the goal. Like no one, everyone, if you word it that way, everyone would kind of agree that that's not a healthy way to go about it. And it's not really something you probably would even be proud of if you were to like sit there and actually ask yourself. So like the idea of just being heard, and like I said, planting the seed with someone, opening that door of communication, and then maybe stop the gossiping so much, because it's really just an ego thing, and it's not creating a connection that like a lot of people are craving.
Yeah, that's a much higher percentage chance of them coming back to you too. That's a good point. Yeah, like just open it up. Just open it up. I mean, out of everybody in the locker room, the chances of them coming to you are much higher.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, that's good.
And from a bunch of my coaches back in the day, like sometimes they would tell me like a tip to help me like do help like a mechanical part of my swing, or like something in the field, or like some kind of instinctual advice. Sometimes I would hear them say it in that moment and be like, I don't know, that doesn't really apply here. And then like 2 years later, I'm like, oh, damn, you know what? Woody was right. Or like, yeah. They were right. So it's like, you don't need to be heard, or you don't need to be like understood right away. It could be something that you just like open the door and open this to, and like, whether they take it right then or not, it's fine, just as long as like you felt like it was the right thing to say or right thing to do. And then if something comes from it, great. If not, who cares? Because like I said, it's not gonna truly affect your way, like your way of living. So just attempt to be the best person and most supportive person. I feel like a lot of people realize that's like really what they're probably missing in their life.
Yeah, this has been so good, man. And as we get ready to close, Drew, thank you again so much, man, for joining us. There's been a lot of just gems dropped throughout this entire conversation. You start looking at mental health, mental performance, the stigma, that revolves around our minds, right? You have LeBron James is the face of calm. Simone Biles is the face of cerebral. You got Michael Phelps, he's like the harbinger for talk space. You know what I'm saying? Like all these different athletes are pushing these apps and these initiatives. Obviously, what has happened with you has resonated with so many people in the world of sports. And this topic is not going away. It's not going away anytime soon. And there's a healthy way to talk about it. And so what I want to do is I want to put you on the spot, man, as we get ready to close. One word right here. One word, man. If you got to use 2 words, you know what I'm saying? I guess we can forgive you, man. But one word, you know what I mean? One word. The thing that I am most thankful for is what, Drew Robinson?
Connection.
I love what you said.
Love and connection.
I love what you said earlier, man. Connection is my medicine. I love that, man. That was awesome, man. Fill in the blank. One word. One of the biggest obstacles for today's athletes is what?
Social media.
Oh,
Obviously that's a huge, like a very vague thing, but we all know how detrimental social media can be and how you can take it either way towards the negative side of things or the positive side of things. So I just feel like that's a huge obstacle that not a lot of people know how to balance, and including myself at times.
man, you just opened up a can. You just opened up a, hey, that's a whole, you could do a whole season just on social media. You know what I'm saying?
The one word I would have said was
Metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. So last one right here. What is the most important concept that, and again, fill in the blank, that we have to keep in mind when it comes to mental health? This is loaded.
Yeah, man. I think the concept that we touched on a couple of times of just balance. Like I said, you can apply it to so many different, like I said, the spectrums of anything. So like, I talk a lot about vulnerability and opening up and talking about feelings and connecting, but at the same time, there's also like, it's just not realistic to do it all the time. So there's going to be times in life where you do have to kind of grind it out and show that grit and just be tough and like, and grind it out and tough it out. So I think it comes with balance though. Cause like I said, if you're always on one end of the spectrum, trying to tough it out all the time, if you don't take a break, you're going to break. And then if you're always kind of trying to stay in your comfort zone, you'll never grow. So I think the balance of having the time, like we said, being able to do the physical work and then also the emotional work of being able to go and take care of yourself physically and working out, but also going and seeing a therapist or doing whatever the emotional techniques or modalities that you need to do to create that balance. Because like I said, if you're always on one end of the spectrum, no matter what you do, your soul is going to be craving the other side a little bit. So finding the way to balance it, I think is a really applicable concept when it comes to mental health. Because like I said, especially just coming from a male environment, competitive environment, we are always taught to be on the one side of the spectrum, just tough it out, rub some dirt on it, all these things. So, and like I said, that's not bad. That's sometimes life.
It's needed. We need to do that sometimes.
Because like I said, if you don't, then you never leave your comfort zone. You never learn new things. You never get that growth that you desperately need to do at times in life. So you definitely need that grit at times and that toughness, but also I think it's okay to be complimented with take some time to just let things out, maybe cry it out every once in a while, or tell someone how much you love them and care about them. It's just like having that balance. And like I said, I feel like that's something that a lot of people are craving. And like I said, if you're always on one end, whether you're aware of it or not, you're probably craving the other end of the spectrum a little bit. So finding that middle ground is, I think, the big, like most important concept for me, at least.
That's great, man. If you don't take a break, you're gonna break. And if you stay complacent, you're never gonna grow. That's fire. That's fire right there. Last one, man. What is the future of sports, man?
Future of sports?
Oh yeah. Given everything that we just talked about today, the highs, the lows, everything in between, what's the future of sports, man?
I hope it's what it is now, just with a little bit more balance.
There we go.
I've worded it or compared it a lot to in baseball. Like back in the day, you got seriously judged and analyzed for not playing through like physical soreness. And like, as recently, like as my first couple of years, if I didn't push through like a broken finger, like I was going to be talked about how I'm soft. But now we have full teams in the training room of like doctors, PTs, athletic trainers, masseuses, like breath work coaches, like all these things that make you feel your best physically. Like going in and asking for a massage to just relieve some soreness, some muscular soreness is like not even thought about now. It's like, that's going to help you perform later tonight. And I just think in the future, it's going to be the same thing emotionally. We're like right now, and it's being talked about more openly, obviously, but there's still that little bit of hesitation to like really letting things out. But like I said, if you have a serious thing happen to you before you get to the field, it's going to take away from your focus to perform later that night. So if you have a place that's right next door to the training room to get yourself right physically, and there's another room right next door that has someone that you can go and talk to and get some, like, just unload some things, it's going to help you perform better. So I think sports with some more balance and a little bit more, a little less stigma is just going to create another level of competitiveness and another level of performance that is inevitably happening, because, like, as we've seen, people are, like, athletes are just getting crazy, crazy strong, crazy athletic. So maybe the next step is like the mental side of things, where people are actually able to juggle all the things that come with being a really high level athlete.
That's great, man. That you can't really add too much more than that, bro. Hey, Drew, in closing, man, you have a room full of high performers. They've all come to hear you speak, and you can share with them anything that you want. And you have 1 minute to do it, man. We're going to end the interview here with you, man. Just an admonition, a charge, encouragement for those who have come to listen to you speak. And before I give you the mic, man, we just want to say thank you, man. This has been so good, man. It's just like the beauty of life, you know what I mean? And just the gift, man, that God has put in you, bro. And just like how you're literally impacting positively people that you don't even know or you haven't met yet has just been really cool to watch and really cool to listen to today. So we just want to say thank you, man, for joining us. It's been really good, man.
Like I said in that one of the examples, like, this does just as much for me as it does anyone. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about some heavy topics and uncomfortable topics at times. So I appreciate, like I said, it helps me articulate things more, helps me understand my emotions a little bit more and explain things clear. So I appreciate you guys being willing to talk to me and giving me the opportunity to do so. So
yeah.
But to answer your question, I think obviously, if someone's coming to see me speak, if there's an audience, they probably know about my story. So this quote is one that just obviously hits home. It hits me right in the feels. It's people would rather hear from you than hear about you. And I think that's something that in this topic of suicide is just, like I said, it's so clear, so cut and dry that, like, my family, my therapist, my friends, they would have rather heard all about my all the misunderstandings or all the what I thought would have been crazy things. They would have rather heard me say that rather than what could have eventually happened of just hearing about me, which kind of did in a sense. Luckily I was able to survive, so they got to hear both. But a lot of people don't get that option of hearing from them again. So I think anyone who's questioning themselves, questioning life, or hearing, or really struggling internally and gotten to a point where they don't feel like they have it all figured out. First of all, no one has it all figured out. And then secondly, everyone would rather hear from you than hear about you.
Hey, just drop the mic on him. That's good, man. That's good, man. Drew, thank you, bro. Thank you, man.
Of course, man. Like I said, it's awesome stuff. I've appreciated you and the work that you've done for so long from afar. And then obviously getting on here and talking with both of you and being able to connect with you the way you have has been special for me. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, man. Once again, Drew, for Derek Devine and our special guest today, Drew Robinson, former Major League Baseball player, now a mental health advocate currently for the San Francisco Giants. We want to say thank you for watching. Please follow and subscribe online. Thank you, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.